This video is brought to you by the CLL Community Canada Facebook group and produced by InnovaHub.ca.
Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, picture this. You're sitting in a doctor's office, your heart is just pounding in your chest, and you hear those three heavy words. You have cancer. Right away, your mind goes into overdrive. You're gearing up for the fight of your life, right? You're bracing for the chemo, the radiation, the surgeries, the whole shebang. But then the specialist looks you right in the eye and says, well, we aren't going to treat it right now. Man, that is a moment that leaves so many people feeling completely, utterly lost. So today, we're tackling one of the absolute hardest and honestly most confusing things to navigate after a diagnosis of chronic lymphocytic leukemia, CLL, or small lymphocytic lymphoma, SLL. We are going to completely demystify the strategy of waiting. Look, I know holding off on treatment sounds literally counterintuitive, maybe even terrifying at first, but by the end of this explainer, the powerful, highly specific medical strategy behind this approach is going to make perfect sense. Okay, let's dive into this.
Okay, part one, why delay cancer treatment? The paradox of a cancer diagnosis without immediate action. It's the most natural question in the world, isn't it? I have cancer, so why aren't we treating it? Like, most of us hear the word cancer, and our immediate, deep-down assumption is that treatment simply have to begin that exact second. And you know what? That thinking makes total sense. I mean, from everything we're taught in movies and the media, your instinct is to fight the invader immediately. You want it out, right now. So when a highly trained specialist tells you we aren't starting treatment yet, it can sound completely backwards. It kind of feels like they're giving up before the fight even begins, right? It creates this massive wave of anxiety. You might be sitting there wondering, wait, did they miss something? Should I go get a second opinion just to find someone who will actually do something? But there is a very specific, carefully studied medical reason for this pause. Which brings us to part two. Different cancers behave differently. Why the standard rules don't always apply.
To really get why a medical team hits the pause button on treatment, we kind of have to toss out the standard rules of the battlefield. Usually, when we talk about cancer, we're talking about solid tumors, things like colon, breast, or lung cancer. With those types, the main concern is that the cancer is highly aggressive. It's going to rapidly grow, invade healthy tissue, or spread to completely different parts of the body. Because of that rapid threat, early aggressive treatment is absolutely vital to control it. It's literally a race against the clock. But, and this is crucial, CLL and SLL behave entirely differently. These are blood cancers that start in the white blood cells, and they are typically very, very slow growing. They just don't race through the body like those solid tumors do. Actually, a lot of people are diagnosed completely by accident during just a routine blood test, long before the disease is causing any physical symptoms or doing any real harm to their body. The clock here just picks at a fundamentally different speed.
Moving on to section 3, the strategy of waiting. Why early treatment isn't always better. If you've got early-stage CLL or SLL, it's so important to understand that starting treatment right away has actually not been shown to help you live longer. I know, that's such a massive shift in thinking, so let's just let that sink in for a second. Starting chemo or targeted therapies the day you get diagnosed, it doesn't offer any survival benefit compared to waiting until you actually need it. In fact, jumping the gun and treating these slow-growing cancers prematurely introduces some pretty major downsides. First off, it exposes you to toxic side effects and significant health risks way before you actually need to face them. It can tank your immune system when you otherwise feel perfectly fine. Second, it's a massive inconvenience. It disrupts your work, your family time, your whole daily life. And for what? There's no clear biological benefit to your body at that point. And perhaps the most critical point strategically, intervening early can burn through your valuable treatment options way too soon. Cancer cells are notoriously smart. They can build resistance to therapies over time. If you bring out your best treatments early on when the cancer is basically just chilling, those same treatments might not work later when you really need them. You want to keep those powerful therapeutic weapons in your back pocket as a strategic reserve.
Okay, so when does the waiting actually end? Well, specialists hold off until there's a clear, definitive medical reason to step in. We're talking about things like the sudden appearance of severe fatigue or really bad night sweats. It could be obvious disease progression, like lymph nodes swelling up rapidly. Or maybe it's significant changes showing up in your red blood cells, impacting your organs, or just making it hard to go about your normal day. The absolute critical takeaway here is this. With CLL and SLL, the question is absolutely not if treatment works. It absolutely works, and the therapies we have today are game changers. The real question is exactly when that treatment is needed. And for so many folks, that optimal time is definitely not the day they get diagnosed.
It is actually incredibly common to find yourself in this waiting period. To put it in perspective, about 80% of people in Canada with CLL or SLL are diagnosed at an early stage. No symptoms at all when it's found. So if you're sitting in a clinic feeling totally confused about why you aren't leaving with a prescription today, know that you are part of a massive 80% majority. For this vast group, the absolute standard, universally agreed upon approach by top oncologists is what they call active surveillance, or watch and wait. This isn't some fringe experimental idea, it is literally the gold standard of care.
Let's look closer at that in Section 4, Active Surveillance Explained. Watch and wait is a highly active process.
We really need to reframe how we think about this waiting period. Watch and wait does not mean nothing is happening, and it sure doesn't mean medical neglect. Behind the scenes, your specialist is keeping an incredibly close eye on you. It's a highly active, totally structured process. A typical cycle means checking in with your specialist every 3 to 6 months. During those visits, you'll get comprehensive blood work, a thorough physical exam to check your lymph nodes and spleens, and they'll meticulously evaluate any symptoms you might have. They're tracking your blood work over time to spot trends. Your symptoms deeply matter to your team, and your overall health is the absolute priority. This whole rhythm is perfectly designed to catch any subtle changes long before they ever become emergencies. And the best part? During all those months between appointments, you just get to keep living your life. Go travel, work, hang out with your family, all without the draining burden of cancer treatments that your body simply doesn't need yet.
I just want to pause on a specific number, 1/3. It is such an incredibly powerful and honestly profoundly hopeful statistic. Up to 1/3 of people diagnosed with CLL may never ever need treatment in their entire lifetime. No way, right? But it's true. Everyone's disease behaves a little differently, and for many, the cancer just kind of smolders quietly in the background. It never flares up into a threat that needs intervention. Just imagine that. You could live for decades, live out your whole natural life carrying this diagnosis, and never need a single round of chemo or targeted therapy. This is exactly why that careful, active monitoring is so absolutely crucial. Your medical team is watching to figure out who actually needs help and who can just be left alone to enjoy their life. And you know what? You very well might be in that 1/3.
Finally, Section 5, Finding Your Community. You are not alone in this journey.
Look, while active surveillance is this incredibly strong, evidence-based medical strategy, we can't ignore the emotional side. Navigating the watch and wait period takes a real psychological toll, and you need support. Living in that gray area between diagnosis and potential treatment, it's tough. So please, post your questions, comments, and experiences in the CLL Community Canada. Your input helps others learn, feel supported, and know they are not facing CLL or SSL alone. As you think about your own journey, what is one way you can shift your mindset from waiting in fear to living actively? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and take care out there.
Thank you for watching. For additional information, go to innovahub.ca, and to join in the conversation, join the CLL Community Canada Facebook group.